Like, what in the world ever made you decide that you wanted to do a
So,
crazy two-person musical
so,
with Jason Robert Brown?
so here, thank you for bringing that up, Lauren. So here's actually how this started. Jason was music directing. Dinah was for us, which I had seen off Broadway, and David Petrarca is a friend, so who had directed at Northlight, directed me in plays. So I asked on a break during tech. I asked Jason if he had a little vest pocket musical he'd like to work out in some anonymous regional theater in an anonymous town in America, and he said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I do." And he was on his way to Bloomington Normal one January, and he pulled off the road and came into the office and said, "Here, I have a couple of songs I'll play you." And we went down to the big theater, and he played two songs, the songs we're going to do here. And he said, "Those are the only ones I had right now." And I said, "Well, if you finish it, I'll close my season with it next year." And he did, and I did. And
Boom.
and we had to, but I remember, Jason, we had to go talk to our friends at Lincoln Center.
Yeah. Oh, but bye, Norbert.
It's all right. He's just getting a snack.
He's
Just
getting
getting the coffee.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the Lincoln Center they had offered me a commission. It was not a large commission, but they said, we'd like to throw you some money to start an idea. And so I had come up with this idea in a conversation with Thomas Cott at Lincoln Center Theater.
Tom Cott.
And he had said, "Oh, that sounds all great," and they gave me, this sort of very nominal sum to just develop it and see what would come out of it. And then, without them knowing anything about my relationship with Northlight, I came in one day and I said, "Oh, listen, this is great. Northlight wants," I believe what I said was, "Northlight wants to do a co-production with you." And Andre Bishop didn't know Northlight, but he actually thought that I had said the North Shore Music Theater, which is a very different thing than Northlight. So he was picturing like this barn in New England where they do Hello Dolly, and that's where we were going to do this intimate little two-person musical. And he was like, I don't think this is a good idea. And I was like, "No, it's great. We just did Dinah Was There." And he said, "You did Dinah Was at North Shore Music Theater?" I said, "No, not at all. It's the Northlight Theater." He said, "Oh, what's Northlight?" I said, "It's in Skokie, Illinois." He said, "Oh, that's fine." And that was the end of that discussion. Did they give you any money for the? I mean, I know we use some of their facilities for auditions and things like that in New York, but they didn't have any.
If he'd have said, "And I'll take all the royalties," I would have said yes. I mean, we had a meeting with them with Andre and Bernie Gerson, and I was so starstruck that I would have said yes to anything.
But essentially, they just said, "Great, you go ahead and do it, and we'll see how it goes."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so you guys did auditions at Lincoln Center, though?
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, because that's, I had already seen Norbert because Norbert. I first met Norbert because he did a reading of Bright Light's Big City at New York Theater Workshop, and at the time, when you're a young actor in New York, everyone just tries to slot you into. So everyone was just trying to slot Norbert into the Adam Pascal slot. They were like, "This is what we need another Adam Pascal." There's Norbert. But I could tell that he had a different skill set than Adam, and so I immediately started saying, "Oh, I want that guy." So he did an award ceremony with me. I had gotten an award for something, and I had Norbert come and yodel a song that I had written at Lincoln Center.
Jason has this incredible way of having people audition without auditioning. Where he says, "Hi, I'm doing a show at Subculture. I'm doing a benefit for," and then they come in and we get to see what he wants to see.
Yeah.
So
good vetting process.
That's how I had known Norbert. And then we did auditions in the basement at Lincoln Center. Mark Simon was our casting director, and he had put together people. And one of the people we saw that was not Lauren, there was a girl who came in, and it was like her first audition in the city. And she came in, and she was really great, but there was just something about the voice that didn't quite lock in. And I knew enough to say, I took her outside and I said, I don't think you really belt, do you? She said, well, I mean, I have my way. I said, listen, you're really great. You're really talented. But I think the kind of singing that we're looking for in this show is, a much more forward style. So if you want to keep working with us, why don't you be the understudy for the part, and we can work on that part of your voice. And she said no, and that was Kelly O'Hara.
Yeah.
She
tells that
I
story
did
a
not
lot.
know that. Wow.
Do you remember, Jay, the moment when you called me and you said there's a little bit of a glitch? Norbert might not be coming in for us because his people don't think he's right for it. He just doesn't seem Jewish.
Oh, I don't remember. This. Ellen must have been working against you here, Norbert.
And it was a moment
I don't know this story at all.
and so there was a moment, and I thought, oh, he's like, it'll happen. But I'm just saying, there's just been a small glitch.
Yeah, I think the problem was Ellen found out how much they were paying at Northlight. And she was like, no, that's gonna. So that's how I knew Norbert. And then Lauren, she loves when I bring up that I had only seen Lauren do one thing before this. And so when her name came up, I was a little like, Lauren Kennedy. She was in that terrible production I saw of 9 at the Paper Mill Playhouse, where she was supposed to be playing some elderly Italian woman. Am I remembering this correctly? I don't even know.
Yes, again, hello, Dolly. I played 50-year-old women. Hello.
Right.
That's what I'm telling you.
She was ludicrously miscast. The whole production was unbearable. And so when her name came up, I was like, no. And then she came in for us. And the minute she came in, I said to Daisy, I said, never mind. She's fine. She's great. We should do that. But that was the only context I had for Lauren Kennedy, which is a reminder not to judge a book by it. Anyway, the thing.
Not to judge a performance by a Paper Mill production where...
No,
yeah.
well, no. In those days, never judge anything by the Paper Mill Playhouse.
No, that's always a fun story when you bring that one up, Jason. Well, listen, I'm just glad you didn't completely write me off because, like I've always said, I feel like when I discovered Jason and his music, it was like being asked to sit at the cool kids table. It was like the music that I'd always been waiting to sing and to be a part of, and that kind of creativity. And I felt like, holy, I have like made it. This is real.
I remember going into the first rehearsal, and there was you had given me a CD, Jason, of all the music, and I had no idea that there was an additional song, which was Shmuel. I think that was the first time I heard it. It was like, what's this? Oh, that's Shmuel. It's
it's just a little 7-minute song that shows up in the middle of the show.
in the middle.
A ditty. Well, BJ, when we auditioned, I guess maybe Norbert didn't audition. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out that story.
I totally auditioned.
But when we auditioned, Jason hadn't really
was
written.
a little wrong.
Okay, 2 stories. Well, one being that Jason hadn't really written all the songs. I think he had written 3 or 4 or 5 songs.
How could you say that?
And I remember him I think I had a work session with you, right, Jason? And I came to your house and Simon completely licked my face off,
right.
While I was singing. Simon loved to sing along underneath the grand piano at Jason's
Simon was
apartment.
my dog, not my child. Simon was
yes, I should have prefaced the whole licking the face. But Simon loved to lick the face and sing along when I was singing. So that was always I was like, am I being punked right now? I'm trying to impress Jason Robert Brown at his apartment, and this dog is literally licking the inside of my ear. How do I focus?
Well, because if you hadn't been nice to my dog, you would not have gotten the show.
I get it. I totally get it. It was like a rite of passage. But so once we were cast, you started writing the rest of the songs. At least that's my memory of it.
No, I didn't write Summer in Ohio until after you were cast, because I would never have written that for anyone who was not a superhuman singer. That was once I knew that you could do that, I was like, oh, well, I have things I can do now. But that's if you look at the show, I wrote it from the outsides in, and so the last 4 numbers to be written, they're not only, it's Shmuel and Summer in Ohio and the next 10 minutes and America Would Happen were the last things I wrote. And they're also the longest songs in the show. And the reason is by then I had boxed myself in so much that if there was any information I needed to get into the show, I had to shove it into those 4 songs. So those songs would just get longer and longer because I had to do so much character work because everything else was already written. But wait, Norbert, what is your audition story? I don't remember your audition.
Yes, we're all getting old, Jason. It's okay. Let me correct the record. I was in Rent, and I had that crazy, bleached blonde, pierced, fake tattooed, nail polish on my fingernails, and because I was playing Roger every Sunday night. That is the title of my memoir, Sunday Night Roger.
Good.
And I was desperately trying to get seen for parts, for roles, and it was such the look of that show and the vibe of it and everything, and so and I guess I must have been there for over a year, and I got sent the script for Parade, and I got sent the music for Parade, and was asked to come and audition for that, and that's when I said, I am German Irish, but with that bleached blonde hair and the ear piercings, and you guys were asking me to come in for Leo. Now, nobody knew who I was. Well, I guess maybe people, rent heads or people that was my only New York credit. But you guys remember, I didn't move to New York until I was 29. I had like a whole resume full of all these like classical roles and stuff. So I did something. God, we used to be so brave when we were young at auditions, didn't we? At first so I think you're remembering that I turned down the audition because I'm like, I read the piece and it blew me away. And I even had a demo with your voice. My first introduction to you was your voice. And I was like, this guy's a great singer. I didn't realize you were playing the piano and you were singing Old Red Hills of Home. And This Isn't Over Yet from Parade. And I learned those two. And on the day of the audition, I took some mascara and I combed my hair with mascara strand by strand. And it just totally transformed me. And I took a risk and I shaved my beard. I said, screw it, Roger can be clean shaved for a few days. And I put some wire glasses on and I came into audition and nobody knew who I was. Daisy, your sweet daddy was there, and the other people on that team, and I remembered something happened in that room because I sang and I read, and I knew when I left. And then Jason, you had asked to give me you'd give me an adjustment on one of the songs, and I could hear you perk up at the piano when I started, or when somebody's singing, and you were like, "That, yeah, I like that voice. I like that guy."
Look, you guys, look how young we were. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Look at those cutie pies.
Dude, I didn't have my hair dye in yet. Now, but
how cute though.
This is
There you
There you go.
I have a ton of these. I know, isn't that cute?
Oh my God.
Oh my Lord. Speaking of cool kids, when Jason told me that Daisy was going to direct, I was out of my mind. And I remember after a couple of rehearsals, there was a pub around the corner that we'd go to, and Daisy would talk about the process of directing this and working on Jason's material, and it was a profound honor to hear that process and to be able to listen to her talk and work out the material as you were in rehearsal. It was really an honor.
And here she is in rehearsal. There she
Yes.
is.
Oh my God!
Look at her.
Beach, you know what was so incredible about, everything was incredible about the Northlight experience, but
You're 2 months.
it's very rare. And as we move through sort of the rest of our careers, and I know all of us feel this to a certain extent, to have somebody put their total faith behind you and say, okay, look, here are the resources we have. We are going to figure out how to make this thing work, given the resources that we have. Actually, there was a human being on a bicycle moving.
Yeah, I will never forget it. I was just going to say it. I'll never forget it.
And
We had to pedal to move 2 full-grown human beings.
sometimes a set piece. And sometimes a set piece on.
That's right.
But it was the one I remember is "I Can Do Better Than That," which I never saw because I was playing. But she had to. Going. It goes through it's a 5.5-minute song, and the turntable goes the entire time.
With little cars.
That girl's calves must have looked. I mean, they must have been like iron by the time.
And it was a perfect pace. I mean, it was, and then she had to move the bed on. All of it. But that's the feeling of working. You know, there are very few people who will say to you, "We will do whatever we have to do to make this happen." And the space was so incredible. And it was a remarkable experience. And we were such a small group that I think that's another thing that made it so extraordinary. You know, we were the designers. I mean, we were Beowulf Boritt and Chris Binder. We were a small, cohesive group. And that's always a pleasure.
But I mean, what Daisy says is it remains the most remarkable thing about it is, I know it's a small show and whatever, but I literally pitched you a show that didn't exist and you said, great, let's do it. And had you not said, great, let's do it, the show would probably still not exist, because the only reason I finished it is because all these people were like, yes, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. And so I did.
That's a great idea.
But
that's such a smart idea. Don't write it, but plant enough seeds to where you absolutely have to.
I've been trying to run my career like that, but I have to tell you, it's a bad idea, because I end up with these shows where I've written one song and everyone's like, oh, that's great. When you're done with it, let's see how it goes. Or as Daisy and I know, once you're done with it, we'll decide whether we ever want to do anything about it.
And we had a lot of luck very early on with people showing great faith in us.
Which apparently they don't.
I guess we've managed to sort of fall out of favor in that way. No, but although BJ, giving you total credit, BJ with our new show, which, you know, then Covey Cove, but with our new show, BJ was the first person to say, hey, listen, I love the idea, I want to do it. And that's, you know, there's something about that energy when you walk into a theater that just that creates a very different work atmosphere. It just makes it much more of a pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's so interesting because, you know, it's sort of what I would aspire to be, and what I am kind of trying to aspire to be as a producer is somebody who will take risks like you did, BJ. And the fact that you are sort of creating a safe space for people to try something, throw spaghetti at the wall. It might not be perfect yet. It might not be ready for New York. But to me, that's the heart and soul of our industry. Our people out there in the regions who are taking risks and showing it to real audience members who can really vet it and really tell you what it's about. I mean, we heard after the last 5 years every night different responses. Like, people were like, I'm team Kathy, I'm team Jamie. Like, it changed every night. And the dialogue that we were able to be a part of, just sitting at the pub around the corner, hearing what people said, being engaged in that, I think is why I do theater, and it's why I feel like it's important.
Theaters, it really is.
Small theaters.
It's why small theaters are incredibly necessary. Not just in terms of function and creativity and the ability to go somewhere, but also because it's the first time you get to hear a legit audience responding. Right. And it takes you, it is a safe space where you do not have the commercial element necessarily breathing down your neck before you're ready, and where you get to make something and see what it is.
So Paige, talk about...
That's a luxury.
Talk about your audience, because you were asking something of them that was fairly unusual. And I thought that took a lot of guts on your part, because it wasn't like I had promised you, I'm going to give you an audience friendly show, and I did not. So it's like what we had was, a Northlight audience, whatever that was 20 years ago, coming in. What was your strategy to deal with them? And how did that end up playing out for you guys?
You know, I wanted to give, and still do, after 23 years, I want to give them as much of the broad theatrical spectrum of work that you possibly can, not just, as Martha Levy, who used to be the artistic director at Steppenwolf Theater, used to call it, McTheater. That is, doing every play that's been nominated on Broadway or off Broadway. And that means doing a lot of new work. And, you know, Jason, you were offering me an opportunity to do absolutely new work, fresh work, and very personal work. That touched me deeply. You know, a lot of times, I have to say, showbiz stories, and this is sort of a showbiz story, don't always connect with an audience. But this is remarkable, I think, last 5 years, because it jumps that connective divide between just civilians and people in the business. That's why it has a life. It talks to a greater, broader audience, I think.
That is what I always say about the piece is everyone says it's about a marriage, and I think it's about being a young artist in Manhattan. I think this is what it is to be in your 20s and trying to do what you do, and you get caught up in all kinds of commitments and all kinds of things that you're not sure are the right ones, but you do it because you're just going. That's to be ambitious is to make choices that may ultimately not work out.
And the duality, not just doing your art and your work, but then negotiating the politics of show business at the same time, or writing at the same time. That part of the world, it takes a tremendous amount of energy, and so I thought that was fascinating. But that isn't what you actually pitched. All I had was the two songs that you played for me on a January afternoon, and I just fell in love with the music. It was that simple. It was the essence of what Jason does. That is, the lyrics are smart and sharp and funny, and the music is complex and unusual, and then even the set. I mean, Beowulf's set was so inventive for our space. It took us into. I remember opening night. I'm talking too much, but I remember opening night, and your dad, Daisy, was sitting right behind Richard Christensen, the critic, and Richard was all a Twitter. And as we were walking out, your father put his arm around my shoulder and said, "You got a great thing going here, kid." And that was fuel enough for another 2 decades. I'm not
amazing. Here, I'm going to show you this from opening night. There Daisy is with her beautiful family. And me trying to horn in with the princes.
Love it. Once you're in with the princes, you're in with the princes.
It's true. Unless you do something very bad. You have to do something very bad to be out of the princes.
Right? But you were like, Daisy, you just said, oh, it's a safe space. It was a safe space. But then, like, opening night, Hal Prince is there. And I was like,
I don't know why it doesn't affect me.
Here, I want to just show this picture of opening night of the whole gang.
Oh my gosh.
That was from that crazy bar.
Look at Tom.
I know Tom and Beowulf right there.
And now
so I wanted to show this to you.
Right? Oh my.
I have gone up in my attic and done all the pulling of all the things.
Yes, this is very impressive.
It's like clean. It's like nobody ever opened this one. It's just like.
There was a lot of the audience that I think never did.
Guys,
who are these people?
If you want to see something embarrassing, look what I found. In an envelope.
I didn't know this was show and tell. I'm in Toronto, so I don't have anything.
It's part of show and tell only because.
I'm in Vancouver. I have nothing.
Only because
Norbert, you're doing show and tell around your entire house, so that's working.
I'm just saying, my pop might have sent me an envelope from his office with this in it.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, remember that?
When one copy isn't enough.
No, you got to have.
Sort of need.
What is it, Daisy?
That was the issue of Time magazine that we got reviewed in. That because I don't think Northlight. I don't think Northlight expected that we were going to be in Time magazine.
It said better than the producers, and
better
it was
than
a
the
picture
that's right.
of you two. And
And this is it. This was the other part. I mean, this is hilarious, right? But like the top 10. Yeah. So my pop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Get.
He's still a dad, proud of his daughter. Just you were nailing it. He was so proud.
But 4 is the best part, you have to say.
Absolutely. You got to have 4.
Now, look, I mean, the thing about last 5 years that was so bizarre to me was, 2 years after we finished it, I went through my own divorce with 2 kids, and it was starting to roil literally as I'm doing this play. So it was this crazy, crazy time, and I'm so grateful for it. It was like, that was like my therapy, man. I got to go out and express, and I didn't even know.
Mine too.
I didn't even know that. So number one, I want to say about what BJ was saying before. The personal is the universal. That's what they always say in art, right? In any kind of storytelling, in songwriting, in book writing, the personal, the more universal it gets. And I've always felt that about the last 5 years. And this whole idea, this whole moral thing about, you guys, I made the mistake years ago. Check out some of the chat rooms hundreds of pages analyzing the psychology and the narcissism. And I'm going, I was a married person going through a divorce, and I'm like, have you never heard of two people being in a relationship, one person maybe having a lot more talent and success, the other person not? Do you know what that does to the dynamic of a relationship? Do you know what it does? These characters are 25 years old, trying to how about giving everybody a freaking break? Looking at two human, I never, ever for a second, even if as I was doing the song where I'm cheating with the girl, or Kathy's doing her thing.
It's not in quotation marks. You actually are cheating.
She is actually cheating. Or when Kathy is doing her nagging thing at the beginning of I was like, I felt so protective of these two characters for the past 2 decades. I felt so protective of them from the second. And BJ, I took the job for the same reason you did. Jason played me 2 songs before my audition. He gave me a private work session. I don't know if everybody got that, but I got that from Jason. I got a private work session, and he played me 2 songs, and I've told this many times. I did the same thing. I didn't even know Jason well. I'd met once or twice at the audition. I went into your bathroom. It was when you guys still had the basement apartment on the Upper West Side.
Oh, wow.
I went into your bathroom, and I literally started to sob. Again, I didn't know that it was unlocking this thing. It was happening in your apartment 3 days before my audition. So I always saw these characters as flawed, but dear, passionate,
complex,
screwed up, hilarious, the whole gamut. And
And it's so weird too.
Why are people,
and young,
especially a lot of music,
so
young.
I'm like,
I know.
hello.
So when you talk about Norbert, how you feel like now you understand those characters too in a deeper, more interesting way, I felt like there was so much about Kathy that I didn't feel like I was capable of, or the depth of some of the the nuance of like her psychology and the way she viewed the world. But what I really thought was so interesting was the way that Jason wrote it. And maybe this was his intention, maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure we ever talked about it. But I know that I talked about it with you, Daisy, is that the experiencing it backwards actually really helped my portrayal of her, because it deepened everything, and everything had sadness and to it, and everything had pain and torture and mistrust. So I started there, and then when you even get to Goodbye Until Tomorrow, it's heavy with like, I don't really trust, and I'm really damaged here. So I just loved that. I learned so much as an actress doing the show. It really did completely change my life in so many ways, getting to work with Daisy as a director and helping that, bringing something out of me that I didn't know that I could do, working with Jason, getting to sing songs that like I felt like I was born to sing. I mean, it changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, as you know, I didn't do it in New York, and I was so stressed about it that I wrote Jason an email, and I was like, hey, I want to do an album. I'm going to do all your songs. So like, can we do that? And that changed my life too, in the sense that it was the first time I had ever produced anything. And I always look back and I always regret not doing it in New York. Like, I feel like that's one of the things I think, that's too bad I didn't get to do that. But I do always say because of that, it taught me to fight and advocate for myself and do things that I wanted to do, and start putting myself forward as a producer, as a director, or someone who created projects. And if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. It's weird. So thank
Laura,
you guys.
That's so well said. And I agree with you. And it's changed my life forever too. I had never, ever had material like this before. I didn't know that I was going to be able to connect so deeply to this idea of a marriage out of balance. But for the haters of the show, or for the haters of Jamie, or for the haters of Kathy, or for all of this intellectualism, I finally come to the decision. I was like, oh, if you're a critic of last five. If you don't get last 5 years, you've never had your heart broken. I was like, oh, right. It's a show for people who have been through, have had their hearts put through a Cuisinart because of a relationship. If you've not had that, experienced that, been vulnerable to that, you're not going to get the last 5 years, because that's what Jason wrote. That's what made all my skin, turn into goose flesh. And the lesson for me with last 5 years, and I've tried to do this ever since in my career. I was talking the first time I heard that music, and I didn't know what the show was about. I didn't know the story, and I immediately had that gut punch. When you get that early in a process, you're so lucky.
I know
that instinct, that first thing. I don't know what it just got me in the stomach. No intellectualizing, no Tony Awards or what's the theater, who's the director. Just a straight, but it's also a straight line, and you follow that through Skokie, all of not going broke. You just keep following that. And it's the only way I choose jobs. If I'm lucky, if I don't have to do it for money, if there's not something, and I just look, what was that feeling?
Well, everybody says like about phenomenons, like when you were doing Wicked or when you were in whatever like has become a cultural phenomenon, did you know it was going to be as successful? That's always somebody's question. Did you know it was going to have that kind of success? I feel like exactly what you're saying about this, Norbert, is I knew from the second I heard this music that this was going to be a phenomenon, and that Jason was going to be a phenomenon.
You don't care.
Yeah.
You don't.
I have to say, part of what the show was built on you guys. It's not like, I can do a lot without you, but there is a certain point at which this show is what it is because you were the two people who I built it on. And even when I replaced Irish Girl with Shik's a Goddess, I wouldn't have given that song to a different actor. That was, I've got Norbert in my bag at this point. I know exactly what he can. You got so mad at me because of all the Jewish names in the list. But
I was so pissed.
That was so
Run that out.
You know why I was so pissed?
I wasn't there. Run that out.
Oh, well, there's a story we don't need to go into about the lawsuits, but I had to change the Irish Girl song into something that would not have located Kathy as being identifiably Irish. So I was changing her from being Irish to just being not Jewish. And so in the course of that, what I had to change, the song was originally a pile of Irish jokes, which was really fun, but I couldn't do any of those. So now I had to do a bunch of not Jewish jokes, which basically translates to having to do a bunch of Jewish jokes. So I had to, but we had been in rehearsal with Irish Girl because Norbert had done it in Skokie and knew the song and was great at it, and it was all good. And that was the one I was saying, that's the one thing I'm not going to change. I had all these changes I had to make, and I was like, I'm not going to change Irish Girl. And I fought it as long as I could. And finally, Daisy and the producer all cornered me, and they said, can we just, you're a writer, you know how to write something else. And so I said, fine, fuck it, I'll write it. And and the problem was, it was not only staged, it had been teched. We didn't have time to go back and do anything. It had to be the exact same number, but entirely different. So
the turntable had to move the exact number of times.
Yeah. So it was like math of the craziest order. And so it was going to have to be really lyric heavy, which makes Norbert tense anyway. And it was all Yids. The whole thing is just Jewish jokes. And so I just threw this pile at him, and he was staring daggers at me like he couldn't believe I would do this to him during previews. Like, we're in previews of a show, and I'm giving him a 6-minute new song. That's just torture.
But what came out? Did you tell? But you were back. Did you hear what came out in performance? My single favorite Norb lyric.
Hit it. Go.
He's doing the laundry list of women, and finally he gets to Julie Stein. That was it. That was Julie Stein, and I lost
on the floor.
It would have been an interesting choice on my part.
I just thought it went by so quickly, but it was there.
And the other thing about that is that Norbert, what we learned is don't throw anything at Norbert at the last minute, because it just takes
Well,
takes you time to sort of absorb.
I'm hardly alone in that.
No.
I will say
Yes.
that.
No. But I mean, there are the actors who you can just say, oh, instead of that word, say that word, and they're like, yeah, got it, and they go and Norbert is not that person, which is fine.
I do remember. I am, but in that process, Jason, you're absolutely right. I wasn't. I was feeling no.
No,
Here's
because
the
it was
thing.
hard.
Only Jason could write a song a replacement song that was actually better than the original song. Chicks God is an amazing song. It's so good. The great lesson in that, obviously, because it's happened in every musical I have done since with a new piece and a new composer. There hasn't been a show I have done that didn't have a 6-minute replacement during previews, many times over. So it was.
But what happened is that Chicks of Goddess, originally the line was, I've had Shabbos dinners on Friday nights, and the original line was with dozens of girls in Washington Heights. And it was the night that the Times was coming. And I was always like, because I wrote it so fast, I was always like, there's just one line that's not good enough. And I said to Norbert, I believe as you were going on
It's giving me
stage,
palpitations to think
I
about
said,
it. It's making
instead
me-
of dozens of girls, say every Shapiro in Washington Heights. And he went,
Oh, that's
what?
right.
I said, just do it. It's fine. And I
I didn't
went
even
up.
know.
It's fine.
And I went upstairs, but he nailed it. He totally killed it that night. And we got this enormous laugh right there, which the song was waiting for. And we got this big laugh, and it was there the night of the Times. And I was always like, that was the gods smiling down. that was a little moment of perfect right there.
Now, 20 years later, when I didn't die, it didn't kill me. Now I have both songs, which I pull out and use all.
Of course.
Like, I love both of them.
Both of them.
And I get to tell the story. It's like the greatest gift that just keeps
Yeah.
on giving.
Well,
And
I
they're
do
both
think we
amazing
should
songs.
sort of wrap the conversation back up because we have taken everybody's time.
No,
but
we're all narcissists.
I was just I'll start
talking.
something on the grill. I'll make sausages.
I'm gonna need wine for this third act, though. Okay, no, I actually do have to go. But BJ, I want to make sure that you have everything that you need.
This is
out of
such a
this.
gift. I want to thank you all for this, and for our other collaborators like Beowulf, Borat, and Tom Murray, and Chris Bender, and Patty Lyons, Ray Nardelli, and Michael Bodine, and
Yes.
and Rob Milburn. This was an extraordinary experience for Northlight to have your gifts. And, we were all younger, and what a gift! And I want to
Truly.
thank you all for everything you've done for Northlight.
Yeah, and thank you guys
What
for
a
doing
joy.
this
Oh, I
phone
love
call
seeing you
and
guys,
this
man.
reunion. I know I'm going to be pretty teary when I see it all put together.
Great
so
story.
thank you, everybody. I love you guys so much. It's been
you.
so
Love you
fun to
too.
chat.
Love you
Thank you.
all.
Be in touch.
Talk to you in 20 years.
It's good to see you.
Peace out.
Great to see you all.
Jamie is over and Jamie is gone. Jamie's decided it's time to move on. Jamie's got new dreams he's building upon. And I'm still hurting. Jamie arrived at the end of the line. Jamie's convinced that the problems are mine. Jamie is probably feeling just fine. And What about lies, Jamie? What about things that you swore to be true? What about you, Jamie? What about you? Jamie, sure something wonderful died. Jamie decides it is right to decide. Jamie's got secrets he doesn't confide, and I'm still hurting. Go and hide and run away, run away, run and find something better. Go and ride the sun away, run away, like a symbol, like it's right. Give me a day, Jamie. Bring back the lies. Hang them back on the wall. Maybe I'd see how you could be so certain that we had no chance at all. Jamie is over, and where can I turn? Covered with scars I did nothing to earn. Maybe there's somewhere a lesson to learn, but that wouldn't change the fact, that wouldn't speed the time. Once the foundation's cracked and I'm still hurting.
My first crush on an Irish girl, I was 10 years old and her name was Elaine. Little redhead girl, well, she looked like you, but if you were 10, which you're clearly not that you look old, but you get my, I'll just stop now. Okay, wait, cause I had a point. No, I swear I did, well, I think I did, which is all my life, or since I was 10, I have had a yen for an Irish lass. Because God knows why, like the ancient curse of the Shiksa-queens. Hey, do I talk too much? Which is not to say that I'd want Elaine, who turned out to be, when I last checked in, a Republican and a parapsychologist. If you've got a four-leaf clover, you could make my dreams come true. I will be your Hebrew slave, just do the things that Irish girls do. Talk about potato famines, I begin to cry on cue. Sing about the Emerald Island, get your Irish eyes to smiling. I could be in love with someone like you. I play piano too. Just left a relationship with a lovely girl named Alyssa Levine. She was really great, it was all my fault. I just got upset cause she slept with my brother. So I made a vow not to get caught up in the dating scene or the whole routine with the cousin's friend or the who knows what, like I need that shit. I got marks to make, I got steps to climb, it's the perfect time. I got books to write, I got things to do. I go out my door and bump into you, and the jig is up and my vow is through. I don't know what I'm doing, but come in and ruin me. I will write my own Ulysses if you're there to show me how. Take me back to Glockamora, bathe me in the River Shannon now. If you'll be Mrs. O'Leary, baby, I will be your cow. I'll deliver shamrocks daily by your pa new shillelagh. I could be in love with someone like you. Could be my inspiration and get me past this block and walk me through the great unknown. You could be my true salvation and chain me from this rock and keep me from being alone. 'Cause I'm no good at being alone. Get me to another level, let me play bigger halls. I will do a river dance as long as you keep answering my calls. Get me out of my apartment, keep me from my empty walls. Someone hire John McCormick, start the wearing of the green. Let me win the Irish sweepstakes, let me take you home, Kathleen. I can be in love with someone, I can be in love with someone, I can be in love with someone like you. It's good. It's good. No, that one's Jerry Seinfeld. That one's John Lennon there. No, the Dakota. The San Remo is up a few blocks. Or should we go inside the museum? We should go. Catch the dinosaurs. Kathy. Will you share your life with me for the next 10 minutes? And the next 10 minutes, we can handle that. We could watch the waves, we could watch the sky, or just sit and wait as the time ticks by. And if we make it till then, can I ask you again for another 10? And if you in turn agree to the next 10 minutes, and the next 10 minutes till the morning comes, then just holding you might compel me to ask you for more. There's so many dreams I need to see with you. I will never be complete until I do.
don't know why things fall through. I don't know how anybody survives in this life without someone like you. I could protect and preserve. I could say no and goodbye. But why, Jamie? Why? I want to be your wife. I want to bear your child. I want to die knowing I had a long, full life in your arms. That I can do forever.
Will you share your life with me for the next 10 lifetimes? From million summers till the world explodes, till there's no left who has ever known us more. There's so many dreams I need to see.
There are so many years I need to be
I
with
will
you.
never be complete.
I will never be alive.
I will never change the world until I do.